What's going on, everybody? LK here, and today a little bit more Guilty Gear for you guys. We're gonna be approaching defense from a slightly different angle once again. So I want to talk about general types of offense you will be receiving and some ways to think about defending them. So even though a lot of characters do have like similar win conditions of like getting you to the corner and then punching you in the face or throwing you, they do present different problems while they're doing these things to you. So being prepared in advance will definitely help. In the end, while it's really cool to do like offense stuff and hit your combos and things like that, a lot of times games and sets can be decided by good defense. So let's break this down a little bit. So the first one I want to talk about is one that's basically repeated among a lot of characters in this game, and it's pretty unusual for Guilty Gear. If you think about the history of Guilty Gear, it's delay canceling around negative frames. So the idea is, especially if you don't understand like frame data, is that most of the moves in this game leave you at a disadvantage, a slight disadvantage. But because you can delay cancel your chains, you can instill some fear in the opponent and push your offense a little bit if you can make your opponent not feel like they can press buttons. So while basically all characters do this in some way, I decided to pick Faust as an example of this. We're going to use this string right here. So this is /2h. So this actually involves understanding the system. So everyone has the same Gatlings, and when you do H normals, you're basically out of chains. Like, they're not H buttons that go into other H buttons. So the issue with Faust here is that when you do this crouching heavy, he's like double digit minus. He's like around like -12, -13. And then on top of that, he has special cancel options, but the majority of them are not very safe. So he would have like scalpel pull, or he would have item toss, or he'll have this special move, mix. So because of this, if he does this string very quickly, he's in a pretty disadvantaged spot. First, we have to understand how would you protect yourself. So the two safest things he could do are // or / nothing. And when I say nothing, I really mean walk back, because this walk back's really good. So what are we going to do against this? One is, for this type of pressure, especially for when characters really rely on this, it does really help to know really what chains into what, because you need to know the spots where they can't do anything anymore, where their options are more limited. That helps us a lot in this situation. If it comes to everything being disadvantaged, like this example, then dash blocking is super strong, and because you can dash with a button, it makes it even better. So in this example, I get to just dash in, then here I'm chasing him a little bit. You know, I just keep the space, I get a little bit meter. And in this example, I don't get hit anyway because I dash in the gap. So here he's delaying. And last but not least, as long as you do it quick enough, you should be able to block. This one, out of all of them, is the ones where you're most likely to get hit. The return is going to vary based on the character. So next up is going to be good old-fashioned strike throw. You know it, you love it. A lot of characters do it. So if you don't know what strike throw offense is, the name basically implies what it is. It's either you're setting up a situation where you could hit somebody or throw somebody if they're scared. The game has systems to help protect you against throw, but there are counters to this. So since we're not robots, we can't react to like 3 frames startup or like all these instant speeds. So it makes this offense quite scary. The main thing about the throw is that in general, there's only 2 ways the throws will hit you. If you're doing nothing, or if they set up a situation that has happened in another ArcSys game. They tried to help us out, do us all a solid, all of us who are playing slow button characters. If you play a character and you use a move that's slower than 5 frames startup, then you can get thrown out of that move if the person who's doing the strike throw has some type of advantage. So for example, okay, so here, first I'm gonna mash 2P. Millia's 2P is 5 frames now, so he can't get to me in time. Now I'm going to mash her 2K, and that is 6 frames. So you could actually see the 2K come out, and then I get thrown. So what are we going to do about this type of offense in general? So there's a couple of general strategies you can rely on. One, we need to think about what is worse to get hit by. So in Soul's case, he is really good at building your guard gauge, the risk gauge, because he has moves that are advantaged that have high attack levels. I have another video on that in case you don't know what the attack level system is. But basically, the stronger the attack, the more blocks done it has, the more hits done it has, and the more risk it will build. So it really sucks to get hit by Soul. So if I do, like, I don't play the character, but if I do some super basic combo, that was just from blocking one close slash. We don't want to get hit by Soul. It's not so bad to get thrown by Soul. With that in mind, when we do select to directly challenge his strike or throw, we just have to realize that we're taking a big risk because he does a lot of damage if he hits you. So the place you want to start is making it hard for him to throw you in the first place. And this is one of the main things you're going to want to do against people who are trying to do a strike throw setup in general. This game has both systems to help you push people off and some more subtle things on how throwing actually works to help you a little bit. So as far as throwing, if we use the same recording, if you FD this, he's not going to be able to make it. So thing number one you want to try to do is use Faultless Defense when they're in throw range if you're worried about the strike throw. Using Faultless Defense properly will make it so that they have to traverse more space to get back to you. Here, of course, he could Far Slash, but he's basically stays in the same range. Even though he advances there, he's still in the same range and he can't throw you. The other more advanced thing is understanding how the throw system works and understanding how fuzzy defense works, which is explained in mission mode. So in mission mode, they tell you how to do it. They do fuzzy jump. I've talked about it in a couple of videos. The concept is you're using an invincibility that the game gives you. The game gives you 5 frames of throw invincibility when you get hit or when you block something. So by combining this invincibility with another action, you can somewhat cover the strike and the throw at the same time. That's the concept of fuzzy defense. So for example, if I was to use fuzzy jump here, I have 2 recordings. I have one of Soul doing this, and then another of Soul doing close slash into throw. If I'm choosing to pick fuzzy jump here, so in this case, I was able to defend against both the close slash dash close slash and close slash dash throw. So the idea here is that since I have the 5 frames of throw invincibility, plus when you jump, you can't get thrown anymore, you're invincible to throws for longer than normal, and you can push people off you because using Faultless Defense, and you can block the strike. Now they would have to aim for your jump startup in order to hit you, and that's kind of where the guessing games come in of them altering their strings, which means you can mash against it. Now you don't have to pick jump too. You can do this with backdash, you can do this with DPs, you can do this with buttons, so like blocking and then delaying a button, blocking, delay DP, blocking, delay backstep. But how good the option is really depends on your character. I main Millia, so picking jump is good for me because my jump is higher than other characters and I have all these air options in order to get out the corner, all sorts of ways to move out of the corner. Combined with pressing buttons, this leads to my win condition directly, so it makes it hard for a strike throw character to hit me. So we're going to move to one that's been in Guilty Gear for a long time, and I'm going to use Eno as the example. This is offense that's really fast, but everything has a response. So the main issue is everything is like borderline-ish reactable if you're looking for it, but if you're looking for just that, then they can hit you with other stuff. There's answers to everything, so you're encouraged to do something, but if you're wrong, you're gonna die. And then the worst part is if you do nothing, then you're essentially letting them push and push and push until they get you. So you really do actually have to try to do something. She has this, and she has various options off it. She could do 2K, she could do dash again, she could do JD, she could do 6H. These are probably the main ones off her air dash jump S. So what do each of these options do? So this is just a low, straight up. This is a slow double overhead. Here is a delayed overhead off her immediate jump S. And this option in particular is there to stop mashing. The problem comes from what are you looking for in particular? So if you don't want Eno players to do this, for example, you can mash 5p or even delay mash 5p and you'll get it. But if you time it wrong and you try to mash, then you'll get hit by the JD. 6p will work fine against JD and air dash, but if she does 2k, you're gonna get hit. And if she does 6h, you will get deleted. So what do you do? Against this type of offense, you really have to break down the situation and make sure you understand each option and why they're picking it, and try to pick either a safe option that like protects you and gets them away, or some type of thing that you can press that will overall hedge your bet in your favor. If they have to pick one option to deal with something that you do that beats 3 or 4 options, then that's a win for you overall. So one thing you can try to do, and this one definitely depends on character, is delaying your 6p. This works mostly because her low option is faster than basically everything else that she does. So if you do it properly, in this case, nothing should come out. In this case, you'll 6p. In this case, and this is the hardest one, you'll still get a 6p. And in this case, you will actually block. Now, whether or not you can do this, it definitely depends on the character, but if you have this type of response, definitely feel free to try it. Soul players are probably pretty familiar with using delay buttons against Eno because he has a fast DP and a 3-frame normal. If you're feeling too uncertain about trying to do a delay 6p, then another thing you could do is try to block high, switch low, block high while using FD the whole time. So against option 1 here, she'll be really far. Against option 2, she'll get to dash in again, but she'll also be pretty far. Against option 3, she'll be pretty far. And against option 4, in case she picks it, not only will she be extremely far, but in the case that you mixed up the 6p, or maybe you're like, you know, I want to do it a little bit faster, and if I get hit by the 6h, I get hit by the 6h, you won't get hit by that either. So a better way to sum it up is using both delay 6p and blocking high, switching low, and then switching back to high together will make it harder for Eno to push her offense in this situation, and she'll have to try to overextend, which will enable you to like hold up more often and things like that. So next I want to talk about status effects. At the moment, I believe there's only a couple. Kai has one in Shock State, and of course Naga, when he bites you, he buffs himself also. Now the main thing for this is that when you have a status effect on you, you need to know what actually changes about the character who did it and how does it affect their pressure. So the main thing for Kai is that when you are in Shock State, this is minimum +4, emphasis on minimum. It could be much more than that. However, this move is kind of slow, so I would say that when you're in Shock State, you should be looking more for Fudorak. And now go to Yuki's case. When you get bit, he's basically a super character that gets to do specials in your face that are all plus and cancel each other. So there's not much he could do in that case besides pray you don't lose. But at least in the case of Shock State, you can interact with Kai and at least try to stop him from taking his turn with Fudorak. Of course, they could just frame trap you with other stuff, but most people are so scared of the Shock State that they just sit there and let him do it. So next, we're going to talk about throw PRC. So honestly, this thing probably deserves its own video, but just so you guys are aware of it, it's a pretty common strategy in this game that has been weakened since the game came out. So the concept is when you have 50 meter, you can use meter on roaming cancel. So what you're going to try to do here is you're going to try to throw, and if the opponent is not there for whatever reason, if they backdash, jump, whatever, you use your meter to protect yourself and react to the situation. In the previous version of Guilty Gear, you could do this input with a timing that it would only happen when the throw whiffed, but in this version of the game, you have to do it on reaction, which makes it a little bit easier for people to escape. So I have the computer set to either jump or do nothing here. So you get the idea. Now, how you deal with this will be character specific, sort of like with strike throw, but the biggest thing to help you, and the main mistake that everyone makes, and even some people at high level make this mistake sometimes, is you need to be paying attention to your opponent's meter. Now for characters like Millia, you don't have to expect this too much from them, but from command grab characters, especially ones with high return off their command grabs, you really need to pay attention for this because they should, emphasis on should, not definitely, but should, be going for this more aggressively when they have more meter to play with. Now, let me add that this is a very strong situation for the person who's doing it. So the main thing I can recommend is the awareness of it even coming in the first place. Because most of the time where people get hit is because they didn't realize the opponent had meter in the first place, so they try to press after the jump and then they get hit. And while we have Millia on the screen, the second to last one I have for today are 50-50s that hit at generally the same time or really close. So this one, I'm gonna keep it a buck. You're kind of fucked if you have to block in this situation. We call it a 50-50 instead of some other type of situation because it really is a guess. Now, the thing you can do to help you though is to know when they could happen. So for example, for Millia, if she does close slash, you know she could follow up with an overhead in Bad Moon or a low in 2S. So knowing that it can come in that spot would help. Another thing that will help you with this one specifically is that, similar to the one we did before, throw PRC, Bad Moon becomes much scarier when you have meter than when you don't. You can go a little bit further and apply this to knockdowns. So this is going to sound similar to Eno in that you need to have a general idea of what's coming and what you can select against, or else you're going to get mauled and think the thing's broken. So in Millia's case, you would need to know the difference between this type of setup and this type of setup and everything in between. Now, the good news is for you that there's not a lot of characters in this game that you need to be able to tell the differences in their knockdown and what options can come. Strike throw and using pressure to enforce your offense rather than putting something on the opponent, some type of projectile, and doing offense from that. The former is much more common than the latter. But against the characters who do have this type of offense, it will help you greatly to know what can come and what your options are against it, if any. So the last one is one I was brave enough in August to raise my concerns about. It is about guard breaks. You know them, you love them. They're a little bit nerfed since the previous patch in that you can do block string options like FD against it. So I saved the 50-50s and the guard breaks for last because these two, one thing about both of these situations is you're fucked and you kind of have to accept responsibility for being in the situation in the first place. And it really helps to know what type of stuff your opponent can do, how they go into it, what is real, what is not real to deal with this. So for example, as we know, Potemkin, once you block this, it's party time. So your main goal is not getting into the situation in the first place. But you will notice after playing pop players that they do things like this, for example, where there is a significant gap and they would have to do something else in that time to hit you. So they would have to do this is a common option. Also, this is a common option. Now, it's nice that FD adds pushback to the guard break, and I generally recommend it. In cases like Garda Impact, it doesn't help too much because of how big the move is and how he has card cancels. So in this example here, this is a point blank Garda, but even that, the Potemkin Buster reaches. So paying attention to the range is very important. So here's another example. So the Potemkin Buster whiffed there. Where the Kara would reach even though the normal one doesn't reach. And even after 2, again, this is with no FD, the Potemkin Buster with a Kara input, again, reaches. So even here, so with the faultless defense, it makes the little bit of a difference. So you got to really pay attention to the ranges here and just see what can work. Again, it's a really fucked situation, just like 50-50s that hit on the same frame / same frame-ish. Really tough situation, but it helps to know the little differences and know what is coming. Now, again, this is a simple example. There's a bunch of other stuff he could do. So yeah, hopefully that helps. There's a lot of type of offense that the opponent can throw at you. So again, the first step is to know what's coming and have a plan. The fun thing about this game is experimenting how to deal with these different situations with your character, because the characters are so different that they don't interact the same as other characters. As usual, if you guys have any questions or comments, definitely feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Like and subscribe if you guys feel like it. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.